Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a BT token guide for the month of April. So there's a lot to talk about this month, there's a lot of characters to kind of go over. So if you're new to these videos, what I do is I talk about characters that are coming out during that month and maybe a couple of the characters that were close to that, or just a couple of other really good general characters. But basically, if you have 50 BT tokens, which type of characters right now in the meta I would recommend grabbing the BTs for. Now, if you're someone that has a lot of BTs, anytime you want to just grab a character you don't have for collection purposes or for when they get their next rework, it's never a bad idea. Just make sure a couple of things before you spend your tokens. Make sure that if they have banners this month that you are done summoning on their banners before you grab it, because the last thing you want to do is grab it with tokens and then pull it. That's like the worst feeling in the world, because you basically just lost 45 BT tokens, because you can sell your extra back for 5, but you basically wasted 45, right? So don't do that. The other disclaimer is don't buy a BT for a character you don't have the kit for and do not have the ability to get the kit for. If you do not have a character's LD, they're pretty much not runnable. Like, LDs are probably the most important part of a character's kit. So yes, you can easily get, like, you can buy the 15, the 35, even the EX, which is tokens. But the LD is the really hard weapon to get. So if there's not a banner to pull the LD and you can't get it, like, it's really tough to use a lot of characters without the LD, right? So you want to make sure that if you're buying a BT for a random character that isn't on banners, that maybe there's a character you happen to have their LD sitting around, you never built them up, and now you decide you want to get their BT because they're pretty good. That's the type of character you could use that on, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about all the characters that are relevant this month and talk about if I think they're worth your tokens or not, right? So I'm going to start with a couple of characters that are not actually coming out in the month of April. These are characters that either came out very recently, so you might have pieces of their kit, or just a character that's really good, right? So the first thing I'm going to talk about are Tifa, Garnet, and Penelo. So Penelo is the main one that hasn't been on a banner recently. She was basically the February anniversary character, right? But Penelo's BT is absolutely busted. So if you happen to either have Penelo's LD sitting around, or you have an LD token, which comes from those packs that you'd have to buy, and have a way to, if you have a way to finish out Penelo's kit, she's by far the best, non-Echo character in the game, and I would still argue she may still be the best character in the game, which is kind of crazy, considering, we have this new Echo power creep and she doesn't have it. She just works so good with other Echo characters. I can't talk her up enough. I use her in all my videos. So if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know how good Penelo is already and how much I like her. So she's an excellent BT choice because her BT basically gives her very powerful attacks when her effect is up and makes her an insane DPS. So yes, Penelo would be a good use of your tokens. Garnet and Tifa I bring up because they are recent characters that just got their echoes. Their banners were out somewhat recently. So these are definitely banners you may have pulled on and maybe got some of their kit but don't have the BT. These both would be good BTs to pick up if you don't have them. Tifa's is probably more important to her kit than Garnet's for sure. Tifa's gives her double follow-ups during her BT effect, which is insane. It makes her damage go crazy. Garnet, though, if you're going to use her as a support character, it just makes her auras really, really good, very potent. So her BT auras are quite good. So these three would all be excellent uses of your tokens if you wanted to grab them. Now, let's talk about characters that are releasing during the month of April or very close to it, right? So coming up next, very soon after you see this video, we've got the Sarah and Charlotta banners. I've talked about these characters very recently on my Should You Pull video. But in terms of should you grab their BT, so Charlotta, if she's a character you're going to use, her BT is pretty important because it's very similar to Garnet where it just carries very powerful auras and makes her very good, right? But Charlotta right now, she's kind of she does have Echo, which is good. She's just, I don't know, I feel like there's other characters maybe better than Charlotta in her role, but she's still ridiculously good. So this is a very common thing I say during these videos, but if this is a character you want to run and you're going to use, then yes, her BT is very good. There's a lot of characters where it's are they top tier? No, but is their BT integral to their kit? Yes. So Charlotta's one where the BT I'd say is fairly important. It doesn't have any special additional effects, but the auras are just very beefy. It helps her look a lot better, right? Now with Sarah's BT is also very important to her kit, and hers is one that, once again, this is one where I'd say, I'm not saying that Sarah's a must get, but if you have Sarah or want to build Sarah, the BT is very important to her kit. Basically, it makes it so that while her BT effect is up, anytime you debuff an enemy, she triggers follow-up attacks. And as we know, follow-up attacks are very powerful in Force Era. Getting extra damage that scales with the HP damage bonus is just insane. So being able to give Sarah, who already has very good auras herself, is a very good support / debuff character, adding follow-ups to her kit is actually very good. So I'm not saying like her BT in general is like the best BT to grab, but if you want to use Sarah, it is pretty important to her kit. Mog, I would say, is a very skippable BT. I don't know that I'd recommend it. The BT effect is good, so Mog has like a plasma attack that will follow up after he attacks. And it makes it so it triggers twice. So yeah, double follow-up's very good thing. It's just the character right now we're putting it on, Mog, isn't that crazy. Even with Echo and FR that he's getting, he's kind of a niche character. He's kind of a weird, like, third utility character. He does do some, like, cool debuffs and stuff, and he does some really cool things, but he's just not, like if you're doing team building, like, Mog doesn't come to mind, like, oh yeah, I really want to run Mog here. He's just kind of like a middle-of-the-road type of character. Unfortunately, as much as I like Final Fantasy VI, I can't say that I would recommend Mog this month. Okay? Kain, very popular character. I think Kain is making a return this month. That being said, his BT actually isn't that important to his kit. Now, if you're using Kain like all the time, his BT is basically just stats. So Kain, for those of you familiar, know that Kain his job is to jump up in the air and drop spheres constantly, right? He's an off-turn king. His BT effect, like, definitely you slap it on, his damage is going to be looking better while he's up in the air, but it's not very integral. Like, Kain operates just fine without that BT, so I would say that's a pretty low priority one. Squall, I know a lot of y'all are excited for Squall. He's getting a nice rework here with his FR this month. His BT is basically stats, and then it makes it so, like, he instant charges his EX, like, after every attack, and his EX is pretty powerful. So it basically allows him to spam his EX. If you're someone, this is going to be similar to what I said about Charlotta, you know, and similar to Sarah, where I don't think Squall is, like, the craziest character to grab this month, but I know a lot of you are fans of him. He is a very good damage dealer. So if you see yourself using Squall a lot, getting his BT isn't a bad idea, because getting those EXs is going to be very good, and obviously stats are always good. Now, the thing with Squall, a lot of you are already going to have the BT. He's a character that is, just in general, he's a popular Final Fantasy character, so people will pull for him whether he's good or not. So at some point in the game's history, you've probably already pulled for him, and he's on the Start Dash banner. So every new player logs in, they get googly eyes for Cloud and Squall, and they're like, pull. Probably got him at some point, so a lot of y'all might already have it. So this is one that you probably won't need anyway, so you might not need to worry about Squall, right? So Jack Garland. Here's the thing. Jack Garland's still a crazy damage dealer, but being that his main role is damage, unlike Pinello, I would say he's aging a little bit with Echo. Now, can you still run him very well with Echo? Yes, because you could run Garland as your main force and then Echo with other characters. Garland's still doing gaga damage, right? He's still very good, but he's falling off just a tad for me. But he's still insane. So if you're using Garland a lot, his BT is very important because his whole deal is he does negative brave damage. He makes the enemy's brave go below their floor, and they go to negative brave. Well, the BT makes it so you do even more HP damage based on the negative value. So yes, very important to his kit. It's very important to the damage. So if you got Garland and you want to use him, or if you're going to pull for him this month, if you don't get the BT, I would say yes, you want Garland's BT for sure if he's a character. But overall, I would say there are better BTs to grab in the current meta, right? So just keep that in mind. All right, so now you're going to see Xande up there. Xande is not a character that has a BT, but I needed a place in for Rubicante. So Rubicante, you've probably heard me talk about him a little bit. He is one of the more hype characters coming this coming month. And Rubicante, basically, he is a fire damage dealer, but he's a counter tank. And counter tanks are incredibly powerful in this game. You all have seen it with characters like even Gladio, who don't even have like forces or anything. He's insanely powerful. Oron, very powerful, right? Machina's counter is even pretty good, right? And these dodge counter characters like Edge and 8, like they can do a lot, even if they're just LD only characters. So here, we're slapping BT, FR, Echo on a dodge counter character. So we're talking power here. So Rubicante is a character I've been heavily recommended. He is a high priority character this month in general to like pull on, and his BT is very good. So Rubicante would be a top tier BT to pick this month. His BT essentially just makes his counters even better. And yes, you want to improve those counters, so you want the BT. So Rubicante would be high priority. Just make sure Since he's a brand new character, you obviously don't just want to grab the BT with tokens. You need to pull on his banner first, see what you get. If you get his whole kit to the point you want and you don't have the BT, then grab it with tokens. High priority, yes. Rubicante, very good pick this month. Yuna. Yuna's BT is just like a stats one. It's very similar to like Garnet in that where it's not integral to like what she does. It doesn't like change the mechanics of the character, but it does make their support a lot better, which is what Yuna's meant to do. Yuna, I would say, is a lower priority character right now in terms of supports. There are better ones out there. One I'm going to talk about, I think, on the next page. So Yuna, I would say, is probably a low priority one, only if it's just like one you're missing out of many and you just want to get it. But I would say Yuna is probably skippable for your tokens. Kurasame, he's a new BT coming this month. His BT actually is very powerful. The thing for me is I don't know if I see myself using Kurasame in the party much, but I do like him. His kit is pretty cool now. He's got the really cool ice follow-ups. He does do HP damage up, like really good things. That's why his call is so good. So Kurasame is a super good like slot 3 character you can run. But here's what I'm going to say with Kurasame. Once again, overall, not a high priority like character or BT to grab, but if you're going to run Kurasame and you like him, the BT is kind of a must. Because his BT basically applies freeze to the enemies, and freeze is one of the most powerful debuffs in the game. The thing that's really powerful about Kurasame, though, this is the first time that the freeze is actually applied as a buff to himself. So for those of you unfamiliar with freeze, the way freeze works is it makes it so that enemies cannot gain brave, which is kind of busted because it means if they can't gain brave, they can attack you, do all kinds of brave damage, they can break you, it doesn't matter, their brave just cannot go up. They can't brave gain nothing. So if you have them broken, their brave is just going to sit at 0. When they unbreak and do their iBrave turn, like they don't gain brave. Like they literally sit at 0 brave. So why this is so busted is because normally freeze comes on a debuff, which is only a 2 to 3 turn debuff. So once the enemies take so many turns, it runs out. Well, with Kurasame, it's on his BT effect. So it's kind of on your side of the field, not the enemy side. So 1, the enemy can't cleanse it. And 2, you could run speedy characters. As long as Kurasame is being slower, you could turn manipulate, keep Kurasame in the back so his BT effect doesn't fall off. You can keep that freeze up a long time. So I'm going to say this. His BT effect is very powerful. I would not be mad at anyone that wanted to pick up Kurasame BT this month because it is very good. The only reason I maybe not going to recommend it as high as others is because Kurasame in the party, I don't know that I personally am going to do that as much. And I don't know if you guys are going to use him a lot in the party. But if you like Kurasame and you're going to use him in the party, get his BT because it is very powerful. Like overall, the BT effect is actually a really good one. One of the better ones, right? All right, next slide. I think this is our last slide. So we've got Aerith, Machina, and Reigns, right? So Reigns is another character that falls into the category of, I don't think he's high priority, but if you have Reigns like basically built except the BT and you're going to use him a lot, the BT is super important to him. Basically, Reigns is known for doing launches and then follow-ups. Well, his BT makes his follow-ups like way stronger. So if you're going to use Reigns, yes, his BT is very important to his kit. Machina, same thing. His BT changes his HP attack into a very powerful one. If you're planning to use Machina as a damage dealer, you have to have his BT to get the really, really insane damage that you want. So Reigns and Machina fall into the same category where they're not like super high priority, but if you like the characters and you're using them, they're kind of like super important to the kit you want them, right? Now we got to talk about Aerith, and I kind of saved her for last because her BT effect is insanely loaded. There is a lot that goes into Aerith's BT, and by the way, she's getting Force Echo as well, right? So a couple of things that come with her BT. One, she gets a unique overhead buff that like stacks up and it like stores a bunch of HP in it that you can use later on to like gain HP, which is kind of crazy. It has very good auras on it. It has an insane effect, which is 100% HP and brave damage resist, which basically means it's like you can't die or you're insanely hard to kill. The other thing too is that overhead, when that overhead gets to 3 stacks, then she gets follow-ups, which is really cool. So once again, adding follow-ups to this like support character is very awesome for damage. Now, the crazy thing that she gets with this BT effect is if an ally falls below 50% HP, including dying, basically it instant heals, like it instant revives and full heals. Now, we've seen this before with like Aiko. It's very similar to Aiko. The thing is, is this kind of gets over a lot of screw you things that the enemies try to do, right? So a lot of these characters that might have like revive, like Rosa, right? Like she has re-raise where like you die and you re-raise. Well, a big problem is enemies do instant kill attacks. This is very similar to like a Lufenia orb popping off, right? So if a Lufenia orb pops, or they do what's called like an instant death attack, which typically in these really hard Shinryus, like they punish you if you don't have a mechanic, right? So for example, during the Dark Knight Cecil fight, it was like if they did a threshold and you didn't have less than a certain amount of HP, they would instant kill you. Like that type of stuff is super annoying. And the reason why instant kill, like there's really no way around it a lot of times, is because they will like wipe your buffs off first and then instant kill you. And basically they're not dealing HP damage, it literally kills you. So what happens is it gets around things like Raijin, because they'll like cleanse their own buffs, then they're free to hit you. Or it gets around like re-raise, because they'll wipe your re-raise buff and then kill you, right? Like all that crazy stuff that gets around it. Here's the thing that's really unique with Aerith. With Aerith, it can still trigger if she's dead. Okay, so that's one thing. So basically, if Aerith gets killed, this still pops off and triggers. So it kind of acts like a re-raise, and then full heals. And for those of you that don't know, when you're going for score, one of the score requirements is win without any KOs. Well, if you revive allies, it doesn't count as a KO. So reviving is fine, and you still get good score, right? The other thing that's crazy is the buff cannot be dispelled by effects that like wipe all buffs away, right? So basically it can't be dispelled even if they do like auto kill attacks. So basically what this does is if they auto kill you, she's going to revive and save you from the auto death. So also what this is saying is her fight is going to be really nasty and aggressive, I assume, because they're going to do like auto kill crap to you. So just keep that in mind. So here's the thing. Aerith is insanely powerful. And here, the thing is I always say, like, you know, effects that rely on you dying, like Aiko, like, I've always been kind of anti-Aiko because, like, a big part of her kit is, like, the re-raise. Well, with Aerith, it's not like a huge part of her kit. It basically is just there to protect you if it happens. But Aerith is insane, like, without that. Like, all of the auras, the follow-ups, like, she gets so much from this. And basically, it's just a way to save you from, like, the screw you, kill you attack. It's really, really nice, actually. So what I'm going to say with this, with how stacked it is, and Aerith has been kind of like my highest priority character I've been recommending to people, because she's like, other than Garnet, she's like the only other like really top tier Echo, like mega good support character. Like Charlotte is good, but she doesn't have as much healing as I would like and things like that. I just feel like she's just like the top tier de facto, like really good support character with Echo, really insane BT effect. So I'm going to say that Aerith is actually my number one pick for BT this month. Now, you got to make sure you're done pulling on her banners. But Aerith, I would say, is my number one pick. And then I would say followed up by that would be like Rubicante. So Aerith and Rubicante, I would say, are my top two choices. But honestly, most of the characters I've talked about, you really can't go wrong, provided you need their BT and you have their LD and can build out their kit, right? The only ones I would say are like definite no's, like Mog is probably just stay away from it. Because once again, Mog, he's just not going to last long in your party. You can use him as a fun little slot 3 character, but I don't know. But yeah, honestly, all of these characters are good. I think Kain is another one you could really safely stay away from. Characters like Kain, it's just so not important to their kit, right? But yeah, I would say Rubicante and Aerith would be my top two. If you have access to Penelo and like can build her, like she's super top tier. Like get Penelo if you can. That would be super high up there. Otherwise, I would say from my list, if you're kind of debating over a couple, I would say if one of them is an Echo character, that should kind of be your determining factor, right? So like if you're trying to decide between like say Jack Garland and maybe like Tifa or Garnet, like you might actually lean Tifa or Garnet because they've got Echo, right? Garland doesn't have that. But if you're going to team comp it where like Garland is your non-Echo and you're going to run two other Echoes, like Garland's still fantastic. So anyways, guys, I know I've talked a lot, but my quick answer is Aerith is what you should get, number one, and then Rubicante, number two. So anyways, let me know what you're going to get with your tokens. If you have questions about characters I didn't bring up or want my advice based on your box, feel free to hit me up in the comments, or my Discord is posted in the description of all my videos. Feel free to jump into my Discord. Just make sure if you jump in there, don't just like write a sentence and say, hey Joe, what should I do? You have to actually tag me and ping me because my Discord's getting pretty big and I don't have a lot of time to read through it. But if you ping me or if you at me, I will respond. Just don't send me like a DM. Just go into my Discord and just at me when you ask the question in the group chat. Just do that, please, okay? So anyways, thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.